boy sang with trembling hands, just to keep his mother alive for one more night. The crowd rose. One judge didn't, because that song wasn't just music. It was the goodbye he never said, and the boy singing it was his own son. The hospital room was quiet, except for the soft hum of machines and the uneven breathing of the woman on the bed. Emily Ross had been unconscious for 9 days. Her son, 6-year-old Noah Matthews, sat beside her with a worn hoodie zipped all the way up, hiding the fact that he'd barely slept in a week. His small hand never left hers, not even when the nurses changed the IV. Not even when they told him visiting hours were over. Noah had seen the accident. He had watched the motorcycle swerve off the wet curb. He'd felt her shove him out of the way. He'd seen her body flip onto the asphalt. She hadn't opened her eyes since. The hospital bills piled up next to her bed. Noah couldn't read most of the words, but he understood the red letters that said urgent. They looked just like the ones on the letters taped to their apartment door. Harriet, their elderly neighbor, had offered him soup and a couch to nap on, but Noah had refused. He didn't want to leave his mother alone. Instead, he curled up in the hallway outside the ICU whenever the nurses made him step out. Every day he whispered, "Don't go, Mom. I'm not done hugging you yet." 3 days earlier, Noah overheard 2 nurses talking in the hallway. One of them mentioned a children's singing competition at Helios Talent Studios. He didn't catch all the details, but he heard one word loud and clear: prize money. That night, Noah made a choice. He didn't have a phone or the internet, but he had his voice. And he had a song. It was the only song he knew by heart. One his mother had taught him years ago, humming it while folding laundry, cooking noodles, or brushing his hair. "The light you gave me." She said she'd written it when she was younger, for someone she loved. Noah had never asked who. All he knew was that when she sang it, her voice became both stronger and sadder, like she was remembering something she couldn't change. Noah didn't tell Harriet. He didn't want her to talk him out of it. Instead, he dragged an empty juice crate to the corner of 7th and Burnett, right outside the gas station, and stood with a homemade sign. "Lemonade, 50C/. Please help my mom." It wasn't much, but over the next 2 days, he scraped together $18.47, just enough for the bus fare and the audition fee. He tucked the money into a plastic bag, wrapped it in 3 layers of socks, and kept it hidden in his backpack. When he reached the studio, he almost turned back. It was massive. Glass, lights, crowds of kids with perfect hair and matching stage outfits. Parents snapped photos, handed out business cards. It smelled like hair gel and ambition. Noah walked through the front doors in his scuffed sneakers and oversized hoodie, clutching a single sheet of paper with his name and the lyrics to his mother's song. The receptionist barely looked up. Name: Noah. Noah Matthews. Age: 6. She paused, blinked, and looked again. "Are you here alone?" Noah nodded. "My mom's in the hospital. I'm here to help her." The woman opened her mouth to say something, but stopped. She glanced down at the form again. Then she typed his name into the system and froze. Matthews. The same last name as the head judge. Zaiden Matthews. She didn't say anything, just handed him the wristband and waved him toward the line. Upstairs in the judge's room, Zaiden was scrolling through profiles on his tablet, prepping for the day. He'd done hundreds of these shows. Usually they were predictable, talented kids, overzealous parents, manufactured drama. But then he saw it. Noah Matthews. 6 years old, no agent, no guardianship attached. Song choice: "The Light You Gave Me." His heart stopped. That song had never been published. It had never been performed publicly. Only one person had ever sung it. To him. on a night he'd been too stupid to understand what it meant. Emily. He leaned back in his chair, eyes wide. No, it can't be. But the feeling in his chest, raw aching, told him it could. Noah waited backstage for almost 3 hours. The other kids had assistants curling their hair, touching up makeup, adjusting ties. He sat on the floor, holding his backpack, quietly humming to himself. When his number was called, he stood up, dusted off his hoodie, and stepped through the curtain. The audition room was large, cold, and blindingly white. 3 judges sat behind a table. The middle one, Zayden, looked up the moment Noah entered. Their eyes locked for a brief second. Neither one knew why it felt like staring into a mirror from another life. "What's your name?" one of the judges asked. "Noah." "Noah Matthews." Zayden's jaw tightened. Matthews. Again. He looked at the audition sheet in front of him, confirming what he already knew. The name, the song, the age. His fingers curled into fists beneath the table. "What will you be singing for us today?" another judge asked, trying to hide a polite smile. Noah cleared his throat. "It's called The Light You Gave Me. My mom taught me. She wrote it." Gasps weren't typical in audition rooms, but one escaped Zayden's lips before he could stop it. The other judges looked over, puzzled. Zayden sat back in his chair, visibly shaken. The pianist asked if Noah needed a backing track. He shook his head. "Just my voice." Then he looked up, straight at Zayden, and sang. The room changed. There was no studio, no cameras, no judges. Just a boy with trembling hands, singing to a mother who wasn't there, hoping she'd feel it, wherever she was. Zayden didn't breathe. Each lyric sliced into him like a memory sharpened by guilt. He remembered the night Emily first sang that song. The flicker of candlelight, her fingers on his wrist, the words, "Even if you go, I'll raise the light you gave me." He had gone, and she had. When Noah finished, the room was silent. One judge stood up to applaud. Another clapped slowly, visibly moved. But Zayden? He stared. "You said your mom wrote that?" he asked, voice dry. "Yes," Noah replied. "Her name's Emily. Emily Ross." Zayden closed his eyes. It wasn't a guess anymore. It was real. That was his son. Backstage, other contestants whispered. Some smirked. He didn't even dress for the stage. What was that song? Sounded like a lullaby. One of the parents shook their head. "Cute story, but it's not marketable." Word spread quickly that the homeless-looking kid got a standing ovation. In the green room, a group of contestants cornered Noah. "So you're the charity case everyone's crying over," said Jaden, a sharp-tongued boy with a designer jacket and a momager who filmed every move. "I just sang for my mom," Noah said quietly. "Right, but let's be honest, someone like you doesn't belong here," Bella added, flipping her braided hair. "This is for real singers, not whatever you are." Lucas, taller and meaner, stepped forward. "Tell us the truth. Did that judge help you get in? You've got the same last name. What'd you do? Lie on your form?" "I didn't lie," Noah muttered. "You poor kids always think sympathy equals talent," Jaden sneered. "Let's see how far that gets you without a backstory." Then Lucas shoved him. Noah stumbled backward into a water cooler, his backpack spilling open. A few coins, a sandwich wrapped in foil, and a sheet of crumpled lyrics fell to the ground. Someone laughed. "That's your gear? You can't be serious." Before Noah could respond, the room fell silent. Zayden had walked in. Every contestant froze. He crossed the room, eyes locked on the scene, and knelt beside Noah. He picked up the lyric sheet, smoothing the crumples with shaking hands. "Who did this?" he asked. His voice was quiet, too quiet. No one answered. Zayden stood and faced the room. Listen carefully. No one here gets to mock someone who came alone, who sang with nothing but their heart. You came here with makeup teams. He came here with courage. Jaden tried to shrug it off. We didn't mean anything. Zayden cut him off. You're 13, old enough to know what cruelty looks like. Don't mistake entitlement for excellence. Then, more softly, he turned back to Noah. You okay? Noah nodded. I've had worse. Zayden nearly broke. Zayden helped Noah gather his things. He didn't say much, but the way he placed the sandwich back in the backpack, with care, with reverence, said everything. Back in the hallway, producers whispered. Assistants exchanged glances. A video of Noah's performance had already leaked on TikTok. Someone in the control booth had uploaded a 30-second clip titled, Kid Sings to Save Mom. Judge Can't Speak. In 3 hours, it hit over 2 million views. The comments section exploded. Made me cry, and I don't even know him. Was that Zayden Matthews tearing up? Who wrote that song? But while the world was falling in love, the show's internal system wasn't. During deliberation, one of the associate producers flagged Noah's file. Low marketability, it read. No backstory confirmation. No legal guardian present. Writ. When the final cut list was announced, Noah's name wasn't there. He didn't cry. He didn't even speak. He just folded the list, tucked it into his pocket, and walked back to the bus stop. Zayden found out minutes later, during the post-taping debrief. Hadn't make it? He asked, incredulous. No, said Callahan, one of the executive judges. Kid's sweet, but come on. This is television. We need faces, stories, backup, not orphans with bedtime songs. Zayden stood up so fast his chair slammed against the wall. He's not an orphan. Then where's his parent? Callahan challenged. Zayden didn't answer. He couldn't. Not yet. Instead, he stormed out of the room, fists clenched, heart pounding. He texted the only person he trusted, the showrunner. Get me his file, now. The file arrived within minutes. Name, Noah Matthews. Guardian, Emily Ross. Emergency contact, none. Hospital, St. Bernardine's ICU, room 406. Zayden didn't wait. He grabbed his keys and left the building. It was nearly midnight when he arrived at the hospital. The halls were dim, the air cold. He found the room. He looked through the glass and saw her. Emily, pale, still, intubated, hair tucked into a loose braid, an old blanket over her legs, a hand-drawn photo on the bedside table, clearly from Noah, stick figures, one labeled Mom, one labeled Me, one labeled with a question mark. Zayden stood frozen, forehead against the glass. I never knew, he whispered. The next morning, social media was on fire. The leaked clip of Noah's audition hit 12 million views. Top trending, Noah sings for Mom. That was Zayden. The light you gave me. Fan theories exploded. Zayden wrote that song, right? No, wait, Emily Ross did. They used to date. I swear I remember her from years ago. Is that his kid? Zayden didn't make a statement. He didn't tweet. Didn't blink. He sat in Noah's hospital room every day after that. Brought food, books, a small keyboard. He didn't force a conversation. He just showed up. And Noah noticed. One evening, Zayden returned with something in his hands. A worn, dusty notebook. The original lyrics to The Light You Gave Me. Emily's handwriting. Scribbled notes. Doodles in the margins. I kept it, he said quietly. But I never played it again. Not after I left. Noah looked up. "Did you love her?" "I still do," Zayden replied. Noah didn't say anything for a long while. And finally, "She said you went away, but she never said you were bad, just gone." "I didn't know," Zayden said, voice breaking. "If I had, I would have run through the world to get to you both." Noah picked up the keyboard, played a note, then another, then looked at Zayden and whispered, "You want to help me write a new verse?" Zayden nodded, eyes full. "Yeah, kid. More than anything." Noah didn't start calling him Dad. Not even after the 4th day at the hospital. Not after the gifts. Not after the sketchbook filled with music ideas. He still called him Mr. Zayden, still kept a slight distance in his voice. Zayden never pushed. He simply showed up, every day, sometimes with soup, sometimes with silence, always with music. Then, one afternoon, the nurse entered the room with shaking hands. "She's waking up." They both stood. Zayden nearly dropped the coffee in his hand. Noah reached for the edge of the bed, barely breathing. Emily stirred. Her eyes fluttered. Her lips cracked open. "Noah?" she whispered. "I'm here," the boy choked. She blinked again and saw Zayden. The color drained from her face. Her chest rose and fell like panic. Then a single word slipped out, half disbelief, half prayer. "Zay?" He stepped forward slowly. "I didn't know, Emily. I swear." Her voice cracked. You're really here?" "I found him singing your song," he said. "I heard it and I knew." She closed her eyes and tears rolled sideways into the pillow. "I never told you. I was afraid if I did, you'd give up your dream. I didn't want you to choose." Zayden knelt beside her. "I would have chosen both." Noah stood silently, watching them. Then finally asked the question he'd held for days. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" Emily tried to sit up. "I was going to. When you were older, I wanted to tell you everything, but there was never a good time." Noah looked from his mother to Zayden. His voice was steady, but small. "So, you're really my dad?" Zayden nodded. "I am, if you'll have me." Noah stared at him, then back at his mother. "I don't know," he said. "I don't even know what that means. You weren't there." Zayden didn't flinch. "I know, and I can't undo it, but I can start now, if you let me." There was a long pause. Then Noah whispered, "Can you stop asking and just show me?" Zayden smiled, eyes damp. Yeah, I can." The next day, Emily's recovery became public knowledge. Helios Studios picked up the story. One of the producers leaked internal footage to a media contact. Noah's performance. The judge's reaction. The identical last names. The rumor exploded. Entertainment headlines splashed across every screen. Zayden Matthews has a secret son? The song, the boy, the truth. But the biggest shock came 2 days later, during the live finale of the show's national broadcast. They hadn't planned to bring Noah back, not after the ineligibility ruling, but the viewers demanded it. A petition reached 700,000 signatures in 48 hours. The network caved. Noah was invited back, unofficially, to perform as a guest, not a contestant. When the lights dimmed and the crowd roared, the host's voice rang out. "Ladies and gentlemen, for a very special performance, please welcome Noah Matthews." The screen behind him lit up with a grainy black and white video. The studio fell silent. It was a home recording. A woman, Emily, 6 months pregnant, sitting on a couch with a guitar in her lap. Her voice clear, young, and trembling with hope. She sang, Even if you go, I'll raise the light you gave me. The same song, the same lyrics, the same pain. The crowd gasped. The video faded into live feed. Noah standing center stage, holding the same lyric sheet Zayden once crumpled in his hands. And then, the music began. But it wasn't the house band. It was a live piano, off stage. Zayden. He walked onto stage, in full view, sat at the grand piano, and looked toward his son. Noah nodded once, and together, they performed the song that connected three hearts, across years of silence, mistakes, and longing. The crowd erupted. Not the usual polite applause. This was thunder. Screams, tears, cameras flashing like fireworks. In living rooms across the country, families leaned forward, breath held. Hashtags flooded every corner of social media within minutes. Noah is the light. Zayden's son, the lost verse. Zion table. Music never forgets. The performance was uploaded online before they even left the stage. Within 2 hours, it broke 1 million views. 12 hours later, 10 million. Zayden still hadn't said a word to the press. He didn't need to. That night, as father and son stood together in the backstage hallway, a producer ran up, breathless. "Zayden, we need a quote, please, just one." Zayden looked down at Noah, then into the camera. "You want a quote?" he said. "Here it is. The best thing I've ever made wasn't an album. It was standing beside me tonight." By morning, fan accounts had exploded. Artists began posting covers of The Light You Gave Me. An indie band released a remix within 24 hours. A Grammy-winning pop singer wrote, "This isn't just a performance, it's a reminder of why we sing at all." The love was real, but so was the backlash toward the people who had tried to bury Noah's name. Clips resurfaced of judges laughing, of comments made backstage. Viewers called them out. A journalist ran a full exposé titled, "What Happens When TV Tries to Erase a Kid Like Noah?" Within a week, the show's executive producer was forced to issue a public apology on live television. "We failed," she said. "We didn't believe in him, but he believed in his mother, and that made the world believe in him." At the same press conference, Zayden stepped up again, this time with Emily beside him. Still pale from the hospital, but strong enough to stand. "I left," he said, "years ago. I let ambition speak louder than love. But this," he looked at them both, "this is my redemption." Noah stood between them, holding their hands, still unsure if he wanted the world's attention, but certain, absolutely certain, he didn't want to lose this feeling. A few weeks later, Helios Studios launched the Matthews Foundation, a fund for underprivileged children with musical talent. The first scholarship recipient, a boy named Malik, whose dad cried watching Noah's video and finally got sober. In one interview, a fan said, "I used to think Zayden was just a star. Now I know he's a father. And somehow, that's big." And as for Noah, he never won the competition, but he won the world. Emily's recovery shocked the world. After weeks in a hospital bed, she now stood in front of a sea of microphones, cameras clicking non-stop. The press conference was packed. Zayden stood beside her, Noah between them, fingers gripping his mother's hand. The moderator handed Emily the mic. She hesitated, just for a second. Then she stepped forward. "I'm not used to being the one speaking," she began, her voice soft but steady. "I've spent most of my life quietly holding things together. Holding bills, groceries, emotions, and sometimes a child's world." Flashes went off. When Zayden left, I didn't tell him I was pregnant, not because I hated him, but because I loved him. And I didn't want to be the reason he gave up everything he'd worked for. I thought I was protecting his future. She looked at Noah, but in trying to protect one dream, I nearly let go of another. I paused. I've learned that silence doesn't make you strong, it just makes you invisible. And there are too many women, too many mothers, who are asked to be invisible every day, asked to carry the weight alone, quietly, graciously. She raised her voice slightly. I was one of them. And I know I'm not alone. The room fell still. You could hear breaths being held. So, today, she continued, I'm not just standing here as a mother. I'm standing here for every woman who's been left behind, dismissed or forgotten, and who kept loving anyway. Noah looked up at her, eyes shining. Zayden reached out, gently squeezing her hand. Emily finished. This reunion, this family wasn't built on a perfect past. It was built on honesty, healing, and the choice to start again. And I hope every silent mother out there finds her voice too. The room erupted in applause. Later that night, her speech was clipped, shared, and subtitled in 18 languages. The hashtags shifted from Zayden's son to Silent No More and Emily Spoke For Us. Randall? She had gone from forgotten girlfriend to a voice for millions. The house was small, with creaky floorboards and mismatched curtains, but to Noah it felt like a palace. It was the first place they all lived together. Emily, Zayden, and him. No cameras, no lights, no hashtags, just quiet. And love. Zayden insisted on cooking dinner the first week. It was a disaster. Burnt pasta, oversalted sauce. But Emily didn't stop smiling once. Noah teased him endlessly. Stick to singing, Dad. He had finally said the word. Zayden didn't respond. He couldn't. He just turned away, pretending to check the oven so Noah wouldn't see his eyes tear up. Some nights, they all wrote music together. Noah would hum melodies from his dreams, Emily would tweak the lyrics, and Zayden would record rough demos on an old tape deck like it was 1999 again. The first song they finished as a family? Second verse. It was Noah's idea. Because, as he put it, we missed the first verse, but now we get to sing the next. The song went viral without them trying. It hit 2 million streams in a week. Labels called. Zayden said no. Every time. He didn't want to package this. He wanted to protect it. Meanwhile, fans continued sending letters. Some from teenagers who'd never known their fathers. Some from single moms raising kids who dreamed big with empty wallets. One letter came from a nurse who had taken care of Emily in the ICU. Thank you for reminding us that some recoveries don't come from medicine. They come from music and from people not giving up. But not everything was perfect. There were nights Emily woke up in a sweat, afraid the hospital beeping was back. Days Noah had nightmares about the accident, the bus ride alone, the kids who pushed him. One afternoon, Zayden found him sitting in the backyard, knees pulled up to his chest. "What's wrong, kiddo?" Noah didn't answer right away. Then he said, "What if this is all temporary?" Zayden knelt beside him. "It doesn't have to be." "You're famous," Noah whispered. "You'll have to leave again. Studios, tours, the world." Zayden took a deep breath, then said the words he'd been saving for the right moment. "I sold the rights to my catalog last week. Every song, every album, every hit." Noah's eyes widened. "What? So I could buy us time?" Zayden smiled. "For once, I don't want the stage. I just want a front row seat to your life." Emily watched from the kitchen window, hand over her heart. That night, the three of them lay on the couch, tangled under a too small blanket, watching cartoons. Noah fell asleep first, his head on Zayden's shoulder. Emily whispered, "You didn't have to give it all up." "I didn't," Zayden replied, kissing her forehead. I just finally figured out where the real music is. A year later, the world had changed, but not as much as Noah had. He still wore mismatched socks, still hummed when nervous, still asked for peanut butter sandwiches over anything gourmet. But today, he stood in front of a different building. The gates of the Westbridge Conservatory of Music opened slowly. It was one of the most prestigious schools in the country, the kind of place where prodigies practiced scales at age 4 and composed symphonies by 10. Noah had never even heard of it, until a letter arrived in the mail, with gold foil edges and 6 words that changed everything. Awarded, Matthews Foundation Legacy Scholarship. Now he stood at the entrance, backpack on one shoulder, a lyrics sheet in his back pocket, and his parents just a few steps behind him. Zayden adjusted Noah's collar. Emily wiped invisible dust off his shoes. "You nervous?" she asked. Noah nodded. "A little." Zayden knelt down. "You know you don't have to prove anything to anyone, right?" "I know," Noah said. "But I kinda want to, for her, for you, for us." And with that, he walked in. Inside, the welcome banner read, "This year's class, where stories become symphonies." And under that banner, kids buzzed with talent and energy. But all eyes turned when Noah entered. Not because he was famous, but because he carried something different. He carried proof that a trembling voice can move the world. In a nearby hallway, a girl with a cast on her arm watched him and whispered to her dad, "That's the boy who saved his mom with a song, right?" Her dad smiled. "No, sweetheart. That's the boy who taught the world to listen." Meanwhile, outside the school, the mural still stood. The boy under the light, flanked by the shadows of his mother and father. But someone had added something. A single word below the golden line. Continues. And maybe that was the most fitting end of all. Because a boy once sang to save one life. Now his voice was helping others begin theirs.